Saul said to David, "Here is my older daughter Merab. I will give her to you in marriage. Only serve me bravely and fight the battle of the Lord." For Saul said to himself, "I will not raise a hand against him. Let the Philistines do that." But David said to Saul, "Who am I, and what is my family or my father's clan in Israel, that I should become the king's son-in-law?" So when the time came for Merab, Saul's daughter, to be given to David, she was given in marriage to Adriel of Meholah. Now Saul's daughter Michal was in love with David. And when they told Saul about it, he was pleased. "I will give her to him," he thought, "so that she may be a snare to him, and so that the hand of the Philistines may be against him." So Saul said to David, "Now you have a second opportunity to become my son-in-law." Then Saul ordered his attendants, "Speak to David privately and say, 'Look, the king is pleased with you, and his attendants all like you. Now become his son-in-law.'" They repeated these words to David. But David said, "Do you think it is a small matter to become the king's son-in-law? I am only a poor man and little known." When Saul's servants told him what David had said, Saul replied, "Say to David, 'The king wants no other prize for the bride than 100 Philistine foreskins to take revenge on his enemies.'" Saul's plan was to have David fall by the hands of the Philistines. When the attendants told David these things, he was pleased to become the king's son-in-law. So before the allotted time elapsed, David and his men went out and killed 200 Philistines. He brought their foreskins and presented the full number to the king so that he might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him his daughter Michal in marriage. When Saul realized that the Lord was with David, and that his daughter Michal loved David, Saul became still more afraid of him, and he remained his enemy the rest of his days. The Philistines' commanders continued to go out to battle, and as often as they did, David met with more success than the rest of Saul's officers, and his name became well known. Amen. Among many people we see in the Old Testament, to me it is Saul that I feel the most pity, because he had the greatest gift from God, which gave him so much potential. He was ordained to be the first king of Israel, and he was the first king. If he lived a life close to God, as he was intended to be, he could have achieved so much, perhaps even more than David. Who knows? Because God doesn't just ordain someone to be, his servant. God ordains someone because that man has potential and talents to be God's servant. And Saul certainly did have those qualities and talents. But instead, he chose to live a life away from God. He strayed away from God and pursued his mission to be an excellent king, a successful king, rather than being successful servant of God. And that caused so much tragedy and pain to himself and his own family. Aside from that, his life is important to us because we can learn how a man can turn into when we stray away from God. When a man stray away from God. From today's text, by looking into Saul's action toward people around him and specifically toward David, we will learn what can happen to us when we stray away from God and live a life according to our own desires and our needs and greeds. After Saul failed to kill David by throwing a spear while David was playing harp for him when he was being tormented by an evil spirit, he realized it is not a good approach because David is not just a simple boy now. David is one of the commanders. Saul made him the commander of his army, and David was really famous among people. Women were singing, Saul 10,000, David 10,000, 1,000, David 10,000. So people really loved them. So if Saul successfully killed David by his own hands, there will be questions among people because Saul didn't have any reason to kill David because David didn't show any sign of David wanting to become a king or wanting to become a powerful man or wanting to, cause any harm to Saul. David was very royal to Saul and the people of Israel. So there was no reason to kill David. So instead of killing David by his own hand, he decided to make David his own family. Not because he wanted to be family with David, but because he wanted to use that the relationship to force David to fight for him in name of his name, the king, and in name of God, to force him into impossible missions and battles, so that one day Philistines might be able to kill David. So he wanted to make him son-in-law. So he offered his first daughter, Merab, to David. But David, being a very humble man, said, I cannot be your son-in-law because I'm a poor man and a simple man, and my family clan is not, suitable to be king's family. So he declined. But Saul, wanting to make him son-in-law, realized that his second son, Michal, was actually in love with David. So he saw it as a chance. My second daughter, Michal, is actually in love. I must use this opportunity to make David my son-in-law. So he offered his second son, Michal, to David, and he used his servants to make David want to become the son-in-law. So David accepted the offering, and David actually married Michal. So he offered his second daughter and made him actually his son-in-law and forced him to go this mission, which is very impossible, to kill Philistine men and bring foreskin of Philistine men, killing them. Just to, without any cause of reason to go battle with them. It's actually a suicide mission because this mission was like an invasion to Philistine people. If David successfully killed, those men, David will be the target for Philistines because even though King Saul ordered this mission, it seems like to Philistines it was only David who acted alone to kill those people and, tear out foreskin of these men. This is not an ordinary, battle between two nations. It is a attack, invasion by one man. It could be seem like done by David alone. So he was forcing him to go to this very dangerous and suicidal mission. But actually, David succeeded doing this mission. And Saul actually failed to kill David. And he became more afraid of David because Saul realized that God is with David, even in that suicidal mission. From this action, we see very disturbing behavior from Saul, which is common behavior that we can find from people stray away from God. You see, to achieve his goal, which is to get David killed by the hands of Philistines, Saul is actually using his two daughters. He's using his two daughters. He's not interested about what his daughter's life would be if his daughters actually marry David, and he actually successfully killed David by the hands of Philistines. Think about it. If David gets killed by Philistines, his daughters are going to be widows. And he's not interested about that. He's only using his daughters. Even considering the culture of that era, which is to value women less than men, his action toward his daughters are very cold. We're not talking about some other woman, or we're not talking about his cousin or some, neighbor's woman. We are actually talking about his own daughters. He does not care about their feelings, thoughts. He only cares about his goal, which is to kill David, his need, his urge to kill David. Such a terrible behavior from a man who once was the chosen man by God, right? You see, when we stray away from God, what happens is we lose our ability to love. Every relationship we have becomes not according to love, but according to our desires and needs. When we make relationship with others, there's no love in that. A man living the life away from God makes friends not because he loves them, but because he sees them useful to him. A man living the life away from God marries a woman not because he loves her, but because he wants to have a partner who can satisfy his needs. There's no love. A man living the life away from God makes children with his partner not because he loves his children, he wants to have loving children, but because he wants the benefits of having children. There are certain benefits of having children. So everyone, including his own family, can be used and be discarded anytime when needed, because he does not love them. He only needs them. That is the life of a man living away from God. Saul uses his daughters as tools to be used for the plot to kill David. Nothing more than tools, and nothing more than tools. Actually, for Saul, love itself has become nothing but a human emotion that can also be used for his own needs. When he realized Michal is in love with David, he used that emotion for his own good. He used his own daughter's love to use against David. So to Saul, love is no longer something that we must cherish. It is something that we can use. We are living in the world where people are living the life like Saul. There are so many people like Saul out there, using people around them as tools to satisfy their desire and needs, exploiting them, sacrificing them, even forcing them to be killed. Such life not only destroy themselves, but people around them. Every day, I am so shocked to hear the news about a person killing random person without no reason, but to just satisfy their urge to kill someone. Basically, people murdering people just for fun. Like some toys to be, played with, to be thrown away, to be broken if wanted, just for fun. Such an evil act that I thought only possible in some fictional stories is happening in our daily lives. What's going on? And it happens so often. Recently, a few days ago, a man just killed random 18 years old girl. And he was laughing after killing that girl. He just did it for fun. He was not in drugs. He was not drunken. He just did it because he wanted to. These are the men who stray away from God. Like Saul, they're living the life blinded by their urge. They don't think about love anymore. They only think about their satisfaction, their needs, their goals. And the only way to save these people is to bring them back close to God. And to do that, we need to show them what it is to live a life close to God. There's no way to cure them, no way to save them anymore. No psychological therapy will help them. You know, people are actually talking about bringing in death sentence back again to our society because there are so many people committing this impossible crime, killing people just for fun. So they are saying we should bring back our execution back to our law because we don't do that anymore, right? But that's not going to cure our society. The only way to cure a society is to bring people back to our Lord. We need to show them the life filled in true love. To show them what it is to love and to be loved. Jesus commanded us to love our neighbors. Not only our neighbors, but our enemies, us ourselves. Not because that makes us feel better, but because it will heal the world. Jesus commanded us to do so because he knew that the world is full of people who are living their lives away from God without knowing what love is and living the destructive lives like Saul. It is our duty as Christians to live a life close to God and show people what it is to live a life in love. Because when you stray away from God, you no longer know what true love is. Because God is love. Love is God. When you do not know God, you do not know what love is. You may think you know, but you don't. Liking someone is not a love. Using someone to satisfy your need or their need is not love. So we need to show them what true love is so they can learn it and live it. We need to do so more than ever since our society is filled with people using each other as tools, not loving each other, because they don't know what it is to love and what it is to be loved. So from Saul's action, using his own daughters as tools, because he has forgotten what it is to love his own blood and flesh, we realized when we stray from God, we become unable to love even our blood and flesh. So we must stay vigilant that we do not stray from God. Another important behavior that we must see from Saul's action is lying. When Saul decided to walk the path away from God, the first thing that he did was to lie to Samuel, right? When Samuel asked him, "Why did you do the burnt offering?" and he lied to him. In his plot to kill David, we see him lying without any hesitation and with so much ease. He has no problem lying anymore because lying became the part of his life. To get what he wants, he lies to even his daughters without any remorse or regret. He didn't tell his daughters that I'm giving you to David so that I can kill you. No, he didn't say that. He lied to his daughters saying, "Hey, Merab, I'm going to make you marry my greatest general, David." He lied to her. And when that failed, he lied to his second daughter, Michal. "You love David, right? I'm going to make your love come true. I'm going to give you marriage to David." So he is lying to his daughters And he has no problem about that. Saul has gone far away from God, that his life is filled with lies. Lying to people is only a means to get what he wants. It's just a means. It's not a bad thing for him anymore. It's just a means. It's just a method. To him, it is not a sin anymore. If it gives him what he wants, he is okay with lying to anyone, even his own daughters. He will lie to anyone if it gets what he wants. Lying has been the trademark. Let's remember, lying has been the trademark of devil, Satan, from the beginning of the history. Remember? When Satan lied to Eve about the fruit of good and evil, Eve lied to Adam, and Adam lied to God. So you could say that the first fruit of the sin is lying. When we stray from God, we feel no guilty about doing sins. So first thing we do is we lie. We lie to anyone, even our loved ones or close ones. Of course, we don't know what, when we stray from God, we don't actually know what love is. So we become so easy to lie to our own family and friends because we don't love them anymore. We are only doing what it is necessary to use them, right? So it becomes so much easier for us to lie. It just becomes the method of living. That is why we see so many people lying to people without any remorse or problem. Look around us. These days, we see so many people lying to each other, right? And it is okay for them to lie. We see politicians lying. I have heard one of the politicians saying, lying is a tactic. They don't see it as a sin. They see it as a tactic for doing political movements. They're saying, if you don't get caught, it is okay to lie. Because it will make you become successful in political, campaigns and movements. So lie as much as you can. That's their tactic. Lying is not a sin to them. It's tactic. As long as you get caught, you don't get caught, it's okay. And we also see famous stars lying, right? Recent news, when you look at recent news, we see so many well-known famous stars lying to people and getting into problems. One of the really famous star lied about his drinking when he was caught by police, right? And it gave him so much trouble. If he didn't lie, it could have been, okay. People could have just, forgive him. You could do that. It's a mistake. One can commit such a mistake, but he lied several times, and people lost trust to this famous star. And we see well-known teachers and doctors, well-known, famous figures lying. We see so many famous people who are known for their works and speeches, lying to people about their works, right? And it has become problems for them. Everywhere we look around, we see people lying to each other. And there are people making money out of lying, right? Every day, what kind of messages and calls do you receive? Those spam messages and spam calls, right? They are making business out of lying to people. And they are perfectly okay with that. Lying may seem like mild sin, small sin. It could seem like, small sin because our children lie sometimes. We do lie sometimes, right? But it is not. Lies can destroy people's lives. like I mentioned earlier, like those spam calls, politician lying, famous people, even, those medicine practical people lying, that could destroy people because people might actually believe them and do what they told them, believe their lies and, harm themselves. And remember, just as told earlier, lie was the very first act of sin that we human did when we first committed our original sins. Lying is the starting point of every sin. So it is not just mild sin. It is the beginning of the great sins. Saul's life, when he strayed away from God, changed him into a person who uses people for his own desire and needs, because he lost his ability to truly love people, love others. And it also turned him into the liar who would destroy people's lives. And people today are living the exact same life as they live their lives far away from God. Just like Saul. And they say they do not need God. They don't want to, live a life close to God. Just like Saul. Saul had so many opportunities and chance to go back to the life close to God, but he refused. He never repented. He never went back, never listened to Samuel. He just went far away, straying away from God. People today, look at them. There are so many churches out there, more than ever, but people do not come to church because they believe they don't need God. But look at what kind of lives they are having. They need God. They don't realize it, they don't refuse it, but they need God. Because they are living the life that has no love in them. Living the life in lies. They are in great danger without them realizing it. Because they are walking the path that will lead to destruction and death, just like Saul. Saul said, I don't need God. I am successful. I am powerful. But look at Saul. He is afraid of one boy. Look at his life. He's in fear, living in a fear. David is actually, when you see at the point of view of king, David is nothing to be afraid of, right? Saul is the king. David is just one of the commanders. David has no power to overthrow him, no power to harm him. But, as we can see from the text, Saul is afraid. Why? Because he knows that God is with David. It is funny, right? He knows that he is afraid of David because God is with him, but he is not coming back to God when he can. Just like the people out there. The people out there actually envy Christians because we live a life filled in love and happiness and kindness toward people. They know the Christians are different. But they don't want to become Christians because they think they don't need God. But they do need God. Just like Saul needed God in his life. So we, as the children of God, it is our duty to stay close to God and live a life that will show those out there living a life away from God what it is to live truly in love, in happiness. Jesus told us to love our neighbors and our enemies as ourselves. As the children of God, this is the command that we know and must follow. Let us stay close to God. And let us show the way to the people out there how their life can be changed. And to do that, we need to be staying vigilant, to not stray from our God. We need to stay close to God. Let us show them. Let us teach them. Let us pray.